Before you sign the paperwork on a Freightliner Cascadia, I need you to watch this video. Not because the Cascadia is a bad truck. It is not. It is the best-selling Class 8 truck in North America for a reason. The aerodynamics are real. The Detroit DT12 engine has genuine credentials. The dealer network is the largest in the industry. There is a reason Freightliner accounts for nearly 40% of all new Class 8 sales. But there is something that the dealer sitting across the table from you right now, the one with the purchase agreement in front of him and a commission check in his future, is not going to tell you. Something that does not show up in the brochure, does not appear in the spec sheet, and does not get mentioned in the financing conversation. It is showing up in the maintenance logs of owner-operators across North America. It is showing up in the forums and the truck stop conversations and the independent shop invoices. And it is costing drivers real money, specific, measurable, preventable money that is not in anybody's 5-year ownership calculation. The Detroit DT12 automated manual transmission. This is what we are talking about today. All the way in, no promotional language, no manufacturer talking points, just the honest data that you deserve to have before you commit $155,000 to $178,000 to a truck. Let me start with what Freightliner tells you about the DT12. They tell you it is the most advanced automated transmission in the Class 8 market. They tell you it has 16 forward speeds and 2 reverse speeds with a crawler gear for low-speed precision. They tell you it has predictive shifting technology that reads GPS data and adjusts gear selection before grades, rather than during them. They tell you it has an integrated PTO capability and direct drive efficiency in top gear that contributes to the fuel economy numbers the Cascadia posts in controlled testing. All of that is true. Here is what they do not tell you. The DT12 is a precision instrument inside a truck that works in some of the harshest operating environments on Earth. Temperature extremes, load variation, driver behavior differences, maintenance intervals, and operating conditions that no laboratory test can fully replicate. And under real-world conditions, across a large enough sample of trucks over enough miles, a pattern has emerged that independent service data is now clear enough to name. The DT12 has a documented sensitivity to lubrication quality and maintenance interval compliance that the factory service schedule does not fully communicate. When trucks are running hard mileage, and owner-operator trucks almost always are running hard mileage, the transmission fluid degradation curve is steeper than the recommended change intervals account for. What this means practically is this. Trucks that are serviced on the factory-recommended schedule under normal fleet conditions show acceptable transmission wear rates. Trucks that are running 150,000 to 200,000 miles a year, the kind of mileage an owner-operator running OTR needs to run to make the numbers work, are degrading transmission fluid significantly faster than the service schedule is designed for. The result, documented in independent shop data from multiple sources across multiple states, is early wear in the clutch pack and shift actuator components. Not immediate failure. Not a catastrophic breakdown on the side of the highway in the first year. Gradual degradation that manifests as shift hesitation, rough engagement under load, and eventual actuator replacement requirements between 400,000 and 600,000 miles. Let me tell you what that costs. A DT12 clutch pack replacement at a Detroit certified dealer currently runs between $4,200 and $6,800 in parts and labor, depending on market, shop rate, and exactly what the inspection finds once the transmission is opened. A shift actuator assembly, the electronic component that physically executes the gear changes, runs between $2,100 and $3,400 installed. Neither of those numbers is catastrophic by itself. On a truck that costs $160,000, a $5,000 repair at 500,000 miles is not a deal breaker. But here is the number that actually matters and that nobody is putting in the comparison spreadsheet: downtime. The average Detroit certified dealer shop currently has a DT12 transmission repair turnaround time of between 4 and 7 business days for a clutch pack job. Parts availability has been a documented issue since the supply chain disruptions of 2022 and 2023. And while the situation has improved, specialized DT12 components are not universally stocked at every location in the dealer network. For an owner-operator running their own authority, 4 to 7 days of downtime at an average of $1,800 to $2,200 per day in revenue, which is what an experienced OTR owner-operator running steady freight needs to earn to service the debt on a $160,000 truck, means that a single DT12 service event costs between $7,200 and $15,400 in total economic impact, parts, labor, and lost revenue combined. Do that math twice in the first 700,000 miles, and you have just paid for the purchase price difference between a Freightliner Cascadia and a Peterbilt 579. That is the number that the dealer does not put on the table. Now let me be precise about something, because honesty requires precision. This is not a universal failure. The DT12 is not a defective transmission. There are hundreds of thousands of Cascadias running DT12 transmissions in large fleet operations that are serviced on aggressive preventive maintenance schedules with dedicated shop infrastructure, and those trucks are performing within acceptable parameters. The issue is specific to operating context. Large fleets with dedicated maintenance programs, frequent service intervals, professional fleet managers monitoring truck health through telematics. Those operations manage the DT12 risk effectively because they have the infrastructure to do it. Owner-operators do not have that infrastructure. They have themselves a preferred independent shop and a factory service schedule that was designed for average conditions rather than the maximum utilization that owner-operator economics require. This is the gap, not between a good truck and a bad truck, between a truck that was engineered and validated for fleet operations and a buyer profile, the owner-operator, that runs it harder than the engineering assumptions account for. And the dealer selling you the truck is not going to tell you that, because the dealer sells to everyone. The fleet buyer and the owner-operator sit in the same chair across the same desk and get shown the same spec sheet. The downstream differences in operating context that make the DT12 more problematic for one buyer profile than another are not part of the sales conversation. They should be, but they are not. Now let's talk about what the competitive data actually looks like when you put the DT12 next to what Peterbilt is offering. The Peterbilt 579 and the Peterbilt 589 both come standard with the PACCAR MX-13 engine, mated to the Eaton Endurant XD automated manual transmission. And the Endurant XD has a meaningfully different service profile than the DT12 in the specific area where the DT12 has issues. The Endurant XD was co-developed with the owner-operator use case specifically in mind. Eaton's data on the Endurant family shows a documented first clutch service interval that runs between 700,000 and 900,000 miles under normal OTR operating conditions, compared to the 400,000 to 600,000 mile window where DT12 issues begin appearing in independent shop data. That is a gap of 300,000 miles at minimum before you are looking at the same category of repair. At owner-operator revenue rates, 300,000 miles represents between 12 and 18 months of operating revenue. The difference in transmission service timing alone, not fuel economy, not resale, not driver comfort, the transmission service timing alone begins to close the purchase price gap between these two trucks in a way that almost nobody is calculating before they buy. There is also a parts availability reality that matters. Eaton Endurant components are available at independent shops across North America, not just at certified dealers. The repair network for an Endurant issue is broader, faster, and in most markets, less expensive than the DT12 network, which is primarily handled through Detroit certified dealers and Freightliner service centers. For an owner-operator who is 3 states from home, when a transmission problem appears, the difference between having 20 repair options and having 3 is not a minor consideration. It is the difference between a 1-day turnaround at a trusted independent shop and a 4-day wait at the nearest dealer with parts on order. Let me put the complete picture together because I want you to walk away from this video with numbers you can actually use. A 2026 Freightliner Cascadia with DT12 starts at approximately $155,000. A 2026 Peterbilt 579 EPIQ starts at approximately $175,000 to $185,000, depending on specification. That is a purchase price difference of between $20,000 and $30,000 in favor of the Freightliner. Over 5 years of owner-operator operation at 150,000 miles per year, 750,000 total miles. The 579 EPIQ's documented fuel economy advantage of between 1.8 and 2.3 miles per gallon over the Cascadia in real-world testing represents between $32,000 and $41,000 in fuel savings at current diesel prices. The DT12 transmission service cost differential, 1 to 2 service events in that mileage window that the Endurant XD is statistically unlikely to require, adds between $10,000 and $30,000 to the Cascadia's real 5-year cost depending on downtime and market. The Peterbilt 579's documented resale premium over a comparably equipped Cascadia at 5 years and 750,000 miles currently runs between $8,000 and $14,000 in private sale and dealer trade-in data. Add those numbers together. Fuel savings, transmission cost differential, resale premium. The purchase price gap between these two trucks does not just close over 5 years of owner-operator operation. It inverts. In the most favorable scenario for the Peterbilt, high mileage, maximum fuel economy advantage, 1 transmission event for the Cascadia and 0 for the Peterbilt. The total 5-year ownership cost advantage for the 579 EPIQ runs between $30,000 and $55,000. That is the number the dealer is not showing you. That is the number that the spec sheet does not contain. That is the number that separates the decision that feels right in the showroom from the decision that is right for your business over 5 years of actual operation. Now let me give you the honest version of this comparison before I close, because intellectual honesty requires it. There are operating scenarios where the Cascadia is the correct choice. If you are buying for a fleet with dedicated maintenance infrastructure and professional service management, the DT12 risk profile is manageable and the lower purchase price becomes a genuine advantage. If you are operating in a market where your freight rate environment makes the higher purchase price of the Peterbilt difficult to finance with your projected revenue, the Cascadia's lower entry cost may be the decision that keeps your business solvent in year 1, even if it costs more in years 3 through 5. And if you are a company driver, rather than an owner-operator, none of the transmission maintenance economics in this video apply to you directly. Your employer absorbs those costs. Your concern is driver comfort, ergonomics, and the experience of sitting in that cab for 10 to 11 hours a day. On driver experience and cab comfort, both trucks have genuine merit. The Cascadia's interior has been significantly updated, and the Detroit Connect telematics suite is one of the better factory systems in the industry. For company drivers, this is not an obvious choice, and reasonable people who have driven both trucks extensively disagree on which one they prefer. But for owner-operators, for the people who are writing the check, carrying the debt, and running the miles that determine whether the business survives or doesn't, the economics I have laid out in this video represent real money, real differences that compound over real time. The dealer sitting across the table from you is not going to walk you through this analysis, not because he is dishonest, because his job is to sell you a truck today, and the economics that matter for your 5-year business outcome are not what closes a deal in a showroom. Your job is to walk in knowing what he is not going to tell you. Now you know. If this video gave you information you are going to use, subscribe, because this channel exists for one reason: to give owner-operators and fleet managers the honest numbers that the industry buries in marketing language and service agreements. If you are about to make a purchase decision on a Class 8 truck, drop your situation in the comments. Route, mileage, budget, what you are looking at. I read everyone, and I will give you my honest take. The best purchase decision is the informed one. Everything else is just an expensive education.